go. Playtime mode is the big ring. Go.
Perfect timing right there. I tell you, some things you just can't even plan. They're just so good. Udi, how you doing, man? Long time no see. You kind of been all over the timeline. How we living?
Have I? I don't know. I'm just dancing in wizard costumes, man. I don't even know what's going on. But it's great to be here. It's great to be here, guys.
We're happy to have you, man. Nicole will be coming soon too. She's in London. Learning all that culture and whatnot. So she'll be hopping on very soon. But Andrew, how we living, man?
Good, man. I'm excited. Wiz is the new Riz.
I just want to say London is my favorite country.
Oh yeah, what do you like about the UK so much, man? That's a surprising take from you.
I don't know what the UK is. I'm just saying London is my favorite country. That's all I have to say.
I love that. Well, look, man. We have some questions for you. I know your time is very valuable, and that there's a lot of wizards that you have to onboard. So if it's okay with you, we can just dive right in here.
Yeah, of
Awesome.
course.
Well, first question is, in your opinion, what are the most promising use cases for blockchain technology beyond Bitcoin itself?
Sorry, what's that?
So, what are the most promising use cases for blockchain technology beyond Bitcoin?
I think, that's a great question. Stuff like Ethereum, I feel like it's kind of like Internet Explorer on older computers. Like you can buy some ETH in order to move it to Bitcoin. So the main use case for other blockchains is to onboard people to Bitcoin, and that's great. Like I'm very thankful for that personally.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Definitely a fair point. And so I got a plane literally flying above me right now.
Are you? Damn, it sounds like you're like in an air combat scene.
Bro, it's
right
the
now.
bear market, man. I don't even have a house anymore. I'm sitting in a field out here. It's going well. Andrew, do you have something you wanted to say?
I just was going to say that was Bitforce 1 flying over your house, Alan. So stay prepared.
Soon. The Bitcoiners will have their own fleet of jets before you know it. I'm very positive about that. And my second question for you, Udi, is you tweeted about a hypothetical Bitcoin roadmap. Can you kind of expand on your future predictions as well as the timelines that you can expect to see? Like maybe we can see this become a reality.
Yeah. So the context for the roadmap tweet was that the Bitcoin community, or the Bitcoin development community, for the past few years has kind of rejected the idea of roadmaps, really, because there's this belief that Bitcoin development should be decentralized and shouldn't be dictated by anyone. There shouldn't be like an agreed upon roadmap, and developers kind of it's unlike, I don't know if people are familiar with how development works on Bitcoin, but it's not like there isn't like something like the Ethereum Foundation or Solana Labs or whatever, where you have like a somewhat concentrated team of developers working on the project. It's just basically it's volunteers around the world, and they each kind of work on whatever they want, really. There isn't necessarily like something that no one's telling developers what to do or what they should focus on. They just do whatever they want, and then if whatever project they're working on is interesting to people, then maybe there's some movement to integrate it into Bitcoin. And kind of my take on this has been that it's cool, but it's kind of very inefficient, because as much as decentralization is important, you also need, for development to be effective in any kind of organization, there needs to be some sort of leadership just to kind of concentrate the focus of builders on what matters. And there needs to be like a process to to determine, here are some things that are going to be important to the users of the Bitcoin system, and that's why we're going to build specific features for them. That's pretty important. Otherwise you end up with developers just building hobby projects of things that they're passionate about, but might have no impact for actual users. So I just think there should be a little bit more direction. And when I talked about the idea of a roadmap, it's funny, like for any other, I'm sure for any other crypto ecosystem it sounds obvious, but in the Bitcoin ecosystem, a roadmap is almost like a a bad word that you're not supposed to say. And that's kind of why I brought it up, because I think that like you can still have a roadmap and maintain things in a decentralized way, in the sense that, you know, multiple teams can exist, each with their own roadmap, and those teams would compete on which roadmap and is the best, and which team executes the best, most importantly. So it can still be decentralized, but there needs to be, even the decentralized teams need to be led by someone. Like each team needs to needs to be led. It can't be just random people just hacking along with their keyboards. We're not, you know, it's used to work when Bitcoin was very small, but, you know, like 10 years ago, and Bitcoin had like maybe, you know, 10,000 users. But these days, when it's a $500 billion asset and has, you know, 100 million holders around the world, and probably probably time to take things a little bit more seriously. So that was the intent behind that kind of roadmap tweet. And I think just in general, like if we're thinking about what we might see in Bitcoin in the future, I think that's one of the kind of shames, one of the big disappointments in my view for the last like 5-6 years has been that anything related to kind of layer twos in Bitcoin has been very, very limited in what it can do, like technically, which is, you know, probably the main, or maybe even the only real layer two for Bitcoin has been the Lightning Network, and that has, you know, the adoption of that has been very, very disappointing. I would say, like there's very few really real world usage for that. Definitely much less than people expected, and I think that it's for many reasons, but I think the main reason is that the feature set of the Lightning Network is just very, very limited, and I think that people would probably be hoping to have a layer two in the future that can have smart contracts on it, for example. You know, like that's a pretty obvious thing. I think people would want that. Currently not possible with the way that Bitcoin works, but I would say that it doesn't have to be impossible forever. And I think that there's actually like a couple of small changes. I mean, I'm not going to get into the technicals, but there's actually a couple of small changes that can be done to Bitcoin in order to allow more advanced layer twos in the future. And I think that that's something that would make sense. I would actually expect that to happen. Could take a little while, like probably multiple years, not because it's that complicated technically, but it's definitely complicated politically. But I still think it will happen. So that's kind of how I think of that.
Udi, I definitely know a thing or two about layer two, so I'm excited that you jumped into the layer two space. But one of the things I've actually been wondering that I just don't honestly have the context around is when I was working with, you know, all of these Ethereum developers and layer two developers, you know, grants is such an enormous part, I think, of like not just the Ethereum community, but so many of these alt ones as well, because you have all these builders from around the world that have visions, that have plans, and obviously need a little bit of that startup capital. How does the grant process differ or even not exist in this space? And do you think that that's a problem? Do you think that there's a solution coming? Because I think it's safe to assume there's probably VCs investing, but I just don't typically see grants the way that I did in Ethereum.
Yeah, it is definitely much smaller. So there's maybe like a couple of kind of nonprofits, but real nonprofits, not like so in other crypto ecosystems, you have a lot of nonprofits that have budgets of, you know, $5 billion because they're not really nonprofits. I'm not gonna get into the legal aspect of that, but in the Bitcoin scene, there are some actual nonprofits. They're just like, you know, relatively small organizations that just based on donations. They don't have tokens to sell or anything like that. They just get donations from maybe Bitcoin holders or whatever.
Mm.
And that's really small. Not more than, you know, a few $1,000,000 a year. So yeah, it's kind of small, and there's no. I mean, it makes sense, right? Like if you think of, I keep saying Solana, but it's really just an example. Like, you know, whatever, Solana, Arbitrum, Optimism, the ZK rollups, whatever. All of these guys would obviously have tokens or will have tokens in the future that they can kind of sell and use that to fund grants. And obviously Bitcoin itself does not have that, right? Because no one no one had like a pre-mine or whatever that they can use. So yeah, so it's all based on donations basically, and it's relatively small.
Right. What's, I guess, just to close that out, Udi, like for someone in the audience right now that's maybe been developing somewhere else that's interested in getting more involved in the Bitcoin ecosystem, like what's your best advice in terms of getting started? Is it, are there certain organizations that you'd recommend they reach out to? Are there certain folks like yourself that are maybe more prolific in the scene that are a best first stop? Like how would you approach that?
Yeah, I think for any look, we're probably going to get into that, but I think that the big orange tsunami that's happening right now is in ordinals and in BRC20s and around all of that stuff, and probably a bunch of other new protocols that we're going to see relatively soon. And I would start there. Definitely, I would not go to the more traditional kind of Bitcoin open source development, just because it's really difficult to get in. Two, the upside is definitely very limited. But I think that, yeah, I think that for this entire Ordinal scene, it's much more easier to get funding. There's definitely a lot of big and small funds that are interested in investing in that. I'm sure there's going to be people that are funding themselves with tokens as well. Yeah, I would say most of the action is probably going to happen there. And if you're a builder, honestly, if you're a builder anywhere in crypto, I think that's probably the best place for you to look right now, because there's just insane growth happening right now, and it's kind of easy to chart out what's going to happen. I think because if you look at the Bitcoin ecosystem, it's very very basic right now in the ordinals, and BRC20 space. It's very very early, very very basic, and you can literally tell what kind of tools are missing, right? Like because from Ethereum and other ecosystems, so it's very very obvious what needs to be built, and it's just a matter of like getting in there and doing it. And there's I think people who do that will be rewarded very nicely, and it's just a very very obvious place to go and build right now, compared to everywhere else where there's a lot of questions of like what's next and what's the next step on the Bitcoin ecosystem that is kind of, in that sense, still fledgling. There's like a very obvious kind of roadmap of what needs to happen. So I think that I think it's it's like just a really obvious place to jump in, and it's not like like we always have these new ecosystems popping up, whatever, like a new layer 2 popping up, a new layer 1 popping up, and then everyone goes there for like a week or two. I don't think it's like that. I think that it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin does have a very strong brand. It does have a ton of liquidity. It has a lot of holders. Has a lot of people who made Bitcoin their entire identity. So I don't think that any of it is going away. Any of those like kind of ordinals and BRC20 experiments, I don't think they're going to disappear. I think they're going to evolve. I think they're going to change a lot, and they might be kind of unrecognizable when you look at them again a year from now. But they're definitely not going away. So that's why I think it's very different from all of these other kind of layer ones. Like this is here to stay, and that's why I think if you're a builder, this is probably where you should very seriously look into.
Well said, sir. And there was a tweet that you had this morning that you kind of went into a little bit. You said that ordinals are the biggest opportunity in Bitcoin for years, and then you kind of alluded to there's still a lot of devs who are just kind of like turning their back and ignoring this opportunity. You kind of expanded on a little bit, but could you dive a little deeper, like again, like why you think ordinals are like the biggest opportunity for Bitcoin in years? And do you think that some of these devs like will wake up and smell the coffee, or is it going to be kind of too late? Well, they'll have to see the writing on the wall before they actually dive in.
Yeah, so I was referring specifically to kind of Bitcoin devs and devs with Bitcoin experience. I think that I think they kind of they obviously they know about a lot about Bitcoin, right? They've been working on Bitcoin related protocols for many years, but all of these have been kind of hobbyist open source projects and really get a lot of user adoption, and but they have the skill, right? They clearly understand Bitcoin technically on a very deep level. And I think there's this cultural issue with Bitcoin right now. If someone like that is trying or expressing interest in working ordinals, then a lot of their kind of so-called friends from Bitcoin laser eye circles are kind of snapping at them and telling them it's a scam and they shouldn't have anything to do with it. And so like I think a lot of more of the devs that worked on Bitcoin for many years just don't have they socially they feel like they can't afford working on this stuff. And I just think it's unfortunate because I truly believe ordinals are by far the biggest opportunity that we had in Bitcoin for many years. I think right now it's the biggest opportunity in crypto, period. And it's just such a shame because I talk to developers every day, but they end up not being like experienced Bitcoin developers. They're developers from the rest of the crypto ecosystem, and they're all over this, right? So if if we'll look at the ecosystem again like a month or two from now, we're going to see that almost everyone is people that have experience in the kind of the rest of the crypto ecosystem, but not in Bitcoin. And that's just, to me, as someone who's been a Bitcoiner for a long time, it's kind of sad to see because I'm like, it's it's one of those cases when you have people who are so close, they're like so close to making it, and they're not gonna make it because they refuse to like look a little bit sideways from what they're usually used to, and they're going to end up missing out on this massive opportunity. And then, obviously 2 months from now, they're going to cry about how, oh, this Ordinals ecosystem is a scam because everyone there is a scammer from outside of Bitcoin. But it's like, yeah, the reason it's the reason everyone is from outside of Bitcoin is because you guys didn't want to do it. Like we're kind of begging you to look. I'm hiring myself, and I know a ton of people were hiring for Ordinals projects and BRC's 20 stuff and other Bitcoin stuff, and it's just not possible to reach those kids. they just don't they just don't want to. And it is what it is. You can't force people to do things they don't want to, right? You shouldn't either. But yeah, I think some of them would probably come around eventually. It is kind of a big switch, big shift that I think is going to be difficult for some people to jump on too early. But that just means that there's an opportunity for other developers.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of continuing this conversation, you live rent free in the minds of a lot of ordinal haters. You're endangering the children, you're endangering society. It's been kind of shocking. Were you kind of surprised by the serious reaction many of them had, considering that a lot of these maxis were like super pro, anti-government, like, back when Bitcoin first started emerging, their tone was completely different. So were you kind of surprised to see the serious reaction and the videos going viral on the timeline about people literally hating you and what you were trying to do with Bitcoin?
No, I wouldn't say, it would be unfair to say I was surprised. I kind of orchestrated it. Just saying that I was surprised would be would be a little unfair. No, I know. Look, I know these people for a long time, and you learn to know exactly how they're going to react. And I mean, we openly used it on purpose against them. Like I'm not even hiding it. That one of the funny things is that they're so predictable. You can literally go and tell them what they're going to say, and they're still going to say it. you, you literally can go and say, "Look, guys, I know what you're going to say. I'm going to make you say it, and I'm going to use it to my advantage." You tell it to them to their face, and they're still doing it. So it's kind of like environmentalists in a way. I like to use that example because environmentalists, it seems like a lot of times they have good intentions, but what ends up happening for the masses of the environmentalist movement is that they just get some politicians that say the right words and end up like mind controlling an army of environmentalists. You know exactly how they're going to react, exactly what they're going to do, and they just mind control them, even when sometimes the things that are being said are not even true. And it all comes from a place of very good intentions, but some people, not everyone, of course, who's an environmentalist, but the masses end up kind of turning off their brains, you know. So, and you can use that as if politicians use that all the time, right? And I think that in this space, it's very similar. Like you have a lot of kind of laser eye cult leaders that know that they have masses of fellowship from people who they mean well, but they don't really understand what's going on. So it's very easy to kind of remotely mind control them and get them to do whatever you want. And we've been doing the same, just from the opposite direction. So we we kind of just realized that if you if you say that if you get the laser eyes pissed at you, then it's a really good marketing engine. And this is actually something that I've talked to with a lot of kind of entrepreneurs and founders in the Bitcoin space, even before Ordinal started. There used to be that kind of the methodology of a lot of companies. Their go-to market was to, okay, we're gonna say the things that the laser eyes and the maxis want us to say, and they're gonna like us and they're gonna promote us. And what I always told them is, look, it's like, it's okay, you can do that, but the problem with that strategy is they're gonna like you, but they're poor. Okay, they don't have money to spend. They literally, their entire like philosophy for life is that you should not spend any money on anything, and instead of eating and drinking, you should buy Bitcoin. So they're not going to be paying customers. So yes, you can convince them to be on your side, but then one day you're going to have a product and they're going to hate you because you're trying to sell them something that isn't Bitcoin. So my suggestion has always been, look, they're very passionate, so use their passion against them. use use it as a marketing engine. And I think that more and more people are going to do that, and I think that that's actually what's going to eventually cause the laser eye movement to kind of dwindle down, because eventually they're not seeing it yet, but they will see it, that they're just being used essentially. And I do think they'll stop. It'll take time, but they will.
Yeah, I mean, water's always been overrated in my opinion, anyway. So maybe a little extra Bitcoin in that. We could see what happens. But I also want to kind of ask you. We see all the viciousness on Twitter, but you were at Bitcoin Miami not too long ago. What's it like seeing these people like face to face? Like, are they still as acting like they are on the timeline, or have you kind of noticed that when you actually meet your community IRL, that the overall vibe is pretty welcoming?
Yeah, so that has been a very interesting experience. So, we were invited to speak on the main stage at Bitcoin Miami, and we knew that we were gonna make like a big show out of it. And a lot of like, true story, a lot of friends like kind of reached out to me and kind of tried to encourage me to not go, because there have been, before the conference, there have been a lot of kind of violent threats on Twitter and stuff, because people really do hate us. Um, so I've gotten a lot of that. The conference team too was kind of, um, they let's say they promise they'll put extra security for our appearances. But me and Eric, my co-founder Eric, well, we talked about this and we decided that, look, we've been in the space for like 10 years. We know these people very well. We're not gonna, yeah, there's some threats and whatever, but we're not gonna back out because of that. We also refuse like getting security for ourselves or whatever, because I don't know. I think it's ridiculous. Like, I've seen those kids. They're not. I know them personally. I know what their height is. They're not. They're not. They're not capable of any actual physical damage. So yeah, we decided we're gonna go anyway, and I'm very glad we did, because when we got there, we got a very warm welcome for everyone. Like, the experience at the conference was really amazing. Everyone was very nice. Even people who online are kind of like on the hater camp. They've reached out. We shook hands. We had good conversations. When we did go on stage for the debate, look, the crowd was literally like cheering and chanting and like dancing, and like people were having the time of their lives. It was awesome. So I thought it was actually a great experience, and it reminded us what we really already knew, which is that the Bitcoin community is really a great community, and Bitcoiners are great people, and the vast majority of them, if you're gonna meet them, you're gonna have an amazing time with them. It's just a small, tiny minority of children in their basements who are typing online on their keyboards behind the whatever laser IPFP. They're insignificant. Their numbers are so small, and in real life, they would never, they would hide. They would run away and hide. Like, you're not even gonna see them. So it's like, yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate that the impression you get of the Bitcoin community online is so different from what it is in reality. That's unfortunate, but we really think that it can change now. Now that there's this kind of renewed focus on culture, I think that I'm very hopeful that it gets massively better online too. It already has. Like if you look today, who are the loudest voices we're talking about Bitcoin on Twitter today? I would say more and more often it would be Ordinals enjoyers and BRC20 enjoyers and people who care deeply about Bitcoin, but they also are very open-minded, and they seem to kind of control the conversation now. So yeah, I really do think it is getting better and will get way better.
Yeah. Go ahead, Andrew.
No, I was just going to say, I agree with you, Udi. Like, one of the things I found interesting is, in engaging with a lot of like Ethereum maxis, most of these folks are Bitcoin lovers as well. It's like, and I think I do agree with you. I think what we're going to see, especially right now, is just more and more of this trickle over of folks that, are maybe living on more of kind of the Ethereum side, starting to kind of trickle into Bitcoin. I'm already seeing it, pretty much every day. But I think at the end of the day, it's definitely going to happen. I agree with everything that you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely echoing Andrew's sentiments there. And, Udi, we interviewed you a few months ago, and the Wizards were kind of just taking off. And, over the past few months, they've absolutely exploded. You've built a loyal and engaged community, very rapidly. Like, can you kind of allude to what things you think drove this growth acceleration? Like, there's a lot of people who are trying to launch projects and grow pages and build audiences. Like, you did this in no time, like literally months.
Yeah, so look, first of all, it's not just me. Like, there's a ton of really cool creators in the Ordinal space and the inscription space, and now with BRC20s, and I think they're all doing like massive, amazing community building work. And I think that the secret is that people just wanted this. I think what me and Eric discussed early on when we started seeing this was that it's just obvious that that's what people want, and people have wanted this for so long, to be involved in Bitcoin in kind of new experimental ways, and they just couldn't, because literally, the gatekeepers were sitting there and not letting those things happen. And now that the dam is finally broken, it's obvious that people are going to want this. You just need to kind of give it to them and validate that wanting this is okay, and they'll just be there because everyone wants this. There's very few people who don't want this. So we were like it's obvious. There's no when when you're lucky enough to be in that kind of opportunity in this crossroads where you're in a place where everyone wants to be, and very, very easy to attract them, right? And I think that's just the gist of it, and that's why I keep saying people who are actual builders in crypto or creators, and they're looking for what their next move should be. I just think that joining the orange tsunami is the best thing you can do, because it's just, you don't have to work as hard when everyone obviously wants to get into get into where you're at, right? So it's if you wanted to convince people to, hey, let's do NFTs on Cardano, that's going to be kind of a heavy lift. But because that's not something people naturally want to do. But Bitcoin has the strongest brand, and it has the most liquidity, and it is the biggest community, and it has everything you need. And amazingly, it didn't have any of this stuff happening on it for such a long time. So it's just think about it as the dam is being removed and you've got all this water washing in. It's just natural. So where do you want to stand when that happens, right? So that's kind of my recommendation. You want to build, be where people obviously want to go to, and you're probably it's gonna be much easier than trying to do something else.
Yeah, Cardano catching some strays there. I feel you, man. I feel you. It's tough. And, without risk of you repeating yourself too much, I kind of want to ask you about BRC20s as well. In tandem with Wizards, BRC20s have just kind of exploded. Why did they onboard so many people when other Bitcoin initiatives didn't catch any steam at all? This is not the first time we've seen innovations in Bitcoin. What do you think it was? Was it the perfect storm of ERC20s, meme coin season propelled a lot of momentum into this? Or what are your thoughts on why those took off so much as well, and why all of Twitter is orange?
Yeah, I think yeah, definitely the kind of meme coin trend had something to do with it. I think what we're seeing is that people people tend to move very fast in the kind of Bitcoin space now because it's kind of a blank slate. Like you can do things very differently, and I think people who are creative and have like ideas that are kind of out there are kind of thriving in that sort of environment because people don't have the same expectations that they would have on Ethereum. Like if you start an NFT projects right now on Ethereum, it is kind of, there's a very clear playbook of exactly what you need to do, and if you don't do it, you're going to have like thousands of people questioning you and be on your back. And similarly with the meme coins, which I mean, I'm personally not going to start a meme coin, too old for that, but like I think that even with them, there's like on the Ethereum side, there's like a very, very clear playbook. Oh, you need to do the pre-sale, whatever you post the address on Twitter, like I don't know, whatever, all the bullshit. And on the Bitcoin side, it's much less clear. There's a lot more room for experimentation. That's why you see like people who are really thriving when they can basically define what the playbook is. And so I think it just attracts better people. You know, if people don't want to do like the exact same thing that 17 people did exactly the same way last week, and they kind of want to try to do new stuff. It is much easier right now to do that on Bitcoin because everything is wide open, and people's expectations are like, you know, they don't know what to expect, right? Even though it's funny, a lot of times it's the same people, right? Like it's the same people aping into meme coins on ETH and aping into BRC20s on Bitcoin to a degree. But whenever they interact with a Bitcoin wallet, they have like this blank slate in their mind, and they're like they're not sure what to expect, and everything goes. And that's, if you're a creator or a developer, I think that's like just a massive opportunity. It's so much fun, and you just get to do things the way you think they should be, and not the way that everyone expects you to, which is just, as a creator, it's just so much more fun.
Yeah, well, what are your thoughts on meme coins? You know, like they kind of took the space by storm. Like, do you kind of have a positive view on them? Like, they onboarded a lot of people in the space. Do you think they took liquidity away from legitimate projects? Like, what are your kind of thoughts on the meme coin meta that we're kind of seeing?
I'm personally, look, I used to, when I was younger, I used to get kind of pissed about those kind of things. I think what I learned over time is that, you know, the market does what the market wants. There's no point in like being annoyed by what the market wants to do and what people want to participate in. And I don't like saying things like, oh, this is diverting funds from important projects or diverting attention from important, like I don't like saying things like that. Like if it was, you know, if the other projects are important, then they should find their own way to get the attention and the funding that they desire. um it's not like, it's not up to me to decide. Like the market seems to have decided what it wants to do right now. And I think it's a phase. If I had to like make predictions, you know, I think it's a phase. I think that we'll probably we'll probably get over it, but who knows? Like who knows when and how big things will get before that happens. Um, yeah, I really don't know. But it's, you kind of see the seasonality between. It has repeated many times in crypto, like, you know, meme coins, JPEGs, DeFi, layer twos. That cycle, it kind of repeats multiple times, and I would expect that it would continue to happen. I've never been a big fan of the meme coin phase, but I've seen it happen many times, and you know, it is what it is. There's no there's no point getting mad about it, you know.
100%. History might not repeat, but it certainly rhymes. So, you know, I'm sure we'll see more meme coin seasons down the road too. You know, some more Bitcoin questions for you, sir. You know, as Bitcoin continues to gain mainstream attention, you know, the regulatory frameworks are rapidly evolving. You know, in your view, like, what is the most crucial regulatory considerations for cryptocurrencies? And, you know, do you believe that it's possible to strike a balance between consumer protection as well as fostering innovation?
Yeah, tough one. I mean, look, I'm not a legal or compliance expert, and probably that's definitely not my field of expertise. I think in general, I've seen it. Look, just out of my experience, I've seen attempts from governments to kind of intervene and protect consumers and retail before, and from what I can tell, it mostly failed, at least in crypto. I mean, look, FTX US was a licensed, regulated exchange, right? So at least to a degree in the United States. Um, I don't know. Wasn't Gary like taking photos with SBF on his like fucking iPhone on his Instagram account? I don't know, man. Like, and it doesn't look. I don't think he's evil for that. Like a lot of us feel for it. Like I thought SBF was the good guy for a while too. A lot of us kind of fell for it. I'm just saying I don't see why particularly we should expect the government to be better than anyone else at determining what's good and what isn't. Like they're just people, like the rest of us. And just like we can fall for scams, they can fall for scams too. I don't think there's any like bad intentions necessarily most of the time. Like I'm not on the conspiracy side saying that the government is actually trying to screw you on purpose. I don't think so. I think the SEC most of the time is probably trying to do the right thing, but they seem to be failing at it. So like I don't know. That's kind of my view, but it's a very basic view from a guy who's not, definitely not a legal guy, not a compliance guy. So there's definitely a lot of things that I don't know and don't understand in that kind of field.
Hey, man, I thought that was a pretty excellent breakdown, to be honest with you. And I guess the only follow-up I would have is, a lot of us are in the United States and live here. Like, do you kind of see the U.S. like chilling out a little bit on how they treat cryptocurrency, or do you kind of see a brain drain and maybe we'll see the innovation starting to pop up in other countries and infrastructure being built in other countries as well?
It's definitely not looking great for the US, as far as crypto is concerned. But also, like, I do want to kind of say that those kind of trends did reverse in the past. So that this isn't the first time that SEC has been getting more aggressive. Maybe the government too, and eventually sort of backed out for a while. And there could be so many, like it's politics, so there could be so many reasons why, focus shifts elsewhere, attention shifts elsewhere, whatever. Like there can be countless reasons. Of course, there's an election coming up eventually. If the administration changes, that might affect things too. Who knows? Like there's so many parameters and variables here. It's very hard to predict like what happens in a year or two, or definitely 5 years from now. So we'll have to wait and see. Right now, it doesn't look amazing. That's for sure. But I'm not as certain. Some people seem to be like very look. There's also other things that governments are going to have to worry about. Actually, what ended up happening, from my perspective at least, last kind of bear market, after the ICO boom of 2017, 2018, everyone was expecting like big regulatory actions against crypto, and some things happened, but not a lot. And I think that part of the reason why is just governments around the world started worrying about other things. As the bear market started and everyone gave up on crypto, it was like, yeah, okay, you know what, it doesn't matter, it's already dead. And I wouldn't be completely shocked if it happens again. That's kind of the nice thing about just crypto and Bitcoin in general. Like we have these periods of time when we onboard a ton of people in the bull market, and then there's these down periods where everyone is convinced that it's dead and they don't need to worry about it anymore. So they kind of stop attacking it for a while because it's not cool to attack it anymore. So I don't know. We'll see. It's very hard to predict, but I hope. I don't know. I'm trying to be an optimist.
Udi, I have a question. Also, can you hear me?
Yes and yes.
Oh, thank God. My first Twitter Spaces in a while. My question is, how does it feel to be the leader of a cult?
Oh man, so soon. Why are you calling it a cult? Just because people dress up in wizard hats and wizard costumes and take showers and post it on Twitter? That's completely normal behavior.
No, I'm just trying to make it sound cooler. I don't think cult has a negative connotation anymore. I think everyone wants to be a part of one. Everyone wants a leader. Everyone wants someone to follow. That's just how I feel. So when I say cult leader, I don't mean someone that, does manipulation and mind control games. I just mean, someone that leads people.
It's both. It's both. There's definitely mind control games involved, but also, no, I'm joking, but I'm kind of with you. I think cults are kind of like, what is crypto? Like, everything is cults. Like, it's just a lot of these small and sometimes very big cults. And I think that what we can strive for is to have cults that are inclusive, in the sense that they are, they're trying to, one, to grow and to welcome new people to join, and three, to, give value to members of the cult, as opposed to having a cult that is only extracting value, that is like intentionally trying to reject people from entering the cult. Like, that just, the math just doesn't work there. I think that's what you see very often from the kind of laser eye cult in Bitcoin. It seems to not want new people to join. And when people do join, it tries to extract all the very little money they have on like steak dinners and bullshit like that. So yeah, I think what you want to optimize for is quotes that are inclusive, that they're trying to grow and they're trying to provide value, and that's probably the best you can do.
I wanted to add to that, Udi, also cults that promote good hygiene. I don't think you get enough credit for the good work that you're doing with Wizard Showers.
Yeah, look, I mean, whenever I go to an event, since the Wizard Shower Quest, it's just a symphony of hygiene, really. It's just great. It used to be just very bad smells everywhere, and everyone was like, I don't know, but now it's much better.
Tell you, not many more people do stuff for the space like you do, Udi. It's Satoshi and then Udi in my book, honestly. But you did talk.
Why Satoshi first? Let's discuss this.
Well, you might be Satoshi, so I guess it's hard to tell, right? Like, I don't want to out you in front of everybody, so let's keep that secret safe. But I do kind of want to ask you about.
No, I'm not.
Bro, that's exactly
what. If the NSA is listening,
that's exactly what Satoshi would say, but that's beyond the point. You would never take credit for it. But I asked you a little about scalability earlier, and I do kind of want to dive a little bit deeper. Scalability has been a topic of discussion in the Bitcoin community, particularly regarding transaction and processing speeds during like the peak periods. Like, what developments or solutions besides maybe L2s, or maybe like you're going to double down on L2s, do you anticipate in terms of enhancing Bitcoin scalability that maybe can help accommodate a larger user base and increase transaction volumes?
Yeah, so Bitcoin kind of had its scalability wars in 2016, 2017. People who haven't been around there might not know, but the kind of conclusion that I think most people agreed with is that Bitcoin is going to scale in layers. And that is intentional because we want Bitcoin itself, we want the base layer of Bitcoin to be as reliable and as predictable as possible. So we don't want it to change very frequently. We want it to change very infrequently and in very small ways, so that we kind of like, the ultimate goal is that you can put some Bitcoin in cold storage, bury it in your backyard, and you will know that no matter what happens, when your grandchildren dig it out, they're still going to get the same piece, the same percentage of the Bitcoin network, and there's nothing that can happen in this period of time that will affect that. You don't need to like subscribe to the newsletter of the Ethereum Foundation to see what's the weekly hard fork with changes to the monetary policy or the consensus algorithm or whatever, in order to make sure that your investment is safe. You just put your Bitcoins there and forget about it and move on with your life. And that's, I think, a very important feature of Bitcoin. So we don't want to lose that, and that's why like the kind of decision by the community was we're gonna scale in layers. Everything that needs to happen and anything that needs to change is going to happen on other layers and not on the base layer. And I think it's the right choice. I still think it was the right choice, but we might need to kind of little supercharge Bitcoin a little bit before we go there to make sure that those second layers can be as, as performant and as capable as we want them to be, so that we can finally leave the layer one alone and not change it
Yeah,
anymore.
definitely leave the L1 alone. It's seems like it's doing a pretty good job, in my opinion. And just continuing the Bitcoin questions here, we're seeing growing interest from institutional investors. How do you see their involvement shaping the future of Bitcoin and maybe the broader cryptocurrency market in general?
Yeah, I think specifically with what's been going on in ordinals and BRC20s again, and again, it's just the beginning. Like we say, ordinals and BRC20. The reason I'm referring to it as the orange tsunami and the orange renaissance is because I think that there's going to be a lot of other things that are going to go into this category alongside ordinals and BRC20s. Like I think there's going to be a lot of new innovations that are going to happen in the next few months, and it's probably going to be unrecognizable to people when they look at it in a year from now. So I don't want to commit to just say, oh, it's just ordinals, it's just BRC20s. Like there's going to be probably a lot of stuff. But the cool thing about it is it attracted a lot of people who, they were already Bitcoiners, but they didn't see a way that they can participate in a meaningful way, and now they do. So I see a lot of big VC funds are, for the first time in years, interested in investing in Bitcoin infrastructure, Bitcoin companies. Really, for the first time in years, like there have been some, they've been calling them Bitcoin only startups for the last 2-3 years. They exist, but they didn't manage to attract a lot of institutional attention because it's not clear to me they're really doing anything, whether they have any clear upside or any really vision. But now there's so many initiatives that do have very, very exciting plans and visions, and I think that it does attract a lot of interest from that, from VCs, from institutions, from a lot of other stuff. I don't know if it goes immediately into BTC itself as an asset. I hope it does, but I don't know. But I think eventually will. We are just starting out. Like it is 4 months since Ordinal started, right? That's very, very early. Like if you look at 4 months after ERC 721 was invented, I promise you that they didn't have such a big ecosystem around it already, and so much interest from investors and so many founders who are trying to build on it. So I would say it's moving way, way faster than even I expected, and I was very bullish even 4 months ago, but it's moving way faster than even I expected. So yeah, I think it's going to happen fast. I think that there's going to be a lot of big changes. I think it's going to attract all kinds of people who did care about Bitcoin, that were bullish on it, but they just didn't have the venue to express it, and now they will. And yeah, there's it's very hard to not be happy about this. It's just really exciting.
So Udi, I want to pivot a little bit. First off, just great convo, great alpha in general. But I want to talk about a subject that I think both Bitcoiners and non-Bitcoiners share a dislike in, and it doesn't rhyme with Elizabeth Boren. CBDCs. I'm curious to just kind of get your thoughts and your take, potential impact of CBDCs on Bitcoin specifically, opinion of CBDCs from the Bitcoin community compared to other communities. Would love to just kind of dive into that a little bit with you.
CBDCs. I mean, I'm also not a CBDC expert. I'm I can, I don't know. I think it's not great. Also, look, everything I say here is not I know very little about them. I don't have a very clear opinion and stance. As an uneducated pleb, I think that sometimes people tend to maybe get a little too dramatic. Look, money right now is already mostly digital. The dollars you have in your bank account are already mostly digital. It's true, there is going to be a difference if people like, I think maybe the angle that people are most concerned about, or well, the angle that maybe the serious people are more concerned about, maybe not the thread boys on Twitter, but the serious people are maybe more concerned about the fact that the CBDCs, because they're issued by central banks and potentially they're supposed to be used directly by, you know, consumers and retail, it might kind of reduce the role of the commercial bank in the middle, and it might give the government more control, because you might have like a wallet that is made by the government, and the entire system is going to be managed by the government, and maybe that's not great. And that is something that could happen in some countries. I don't think that it's the plan in the US right now, for example, if I understand it correctly. I think that in the US they're looking more into stuff like FedNow, which is like, it is a new government operated settlement system, but you know, users and retail consumers are not going to, or businesses are not going to work with it directly. You're still going to use it through your bank. So my point being, like, the government is not going to have that much more control. But look, really, not an expert of that. I don't know. My kind of way to to kind of handle this stuff is to just buy some Bitcoin and hold it in my wallet, and then I don't need to worry about this stuff. That's my approach.
Feels like a very sound approach. But appreciate it, and also just appreciate like the transparency around your knowledge, because I think I find a lot of folks in this space just pretend like they're experts in a lot of different things. So it's refreshing to hear someone kind of lean into what their expertise is and isn't. Another thing, like one of the things we like to do in these spaces quite a bit is really just give utility back to the listeners and really kind of help, you know, benefit them. One of the things I'd love to talk about, just because I think, again, you're so much deeper in the Bitcoin space than most of us, is resources, right? Like there's obviously a bit of a trust issue with a lot of publications, but I'm curious to know, you know, what do you personally consume? You know, are there newsletters? Are there publications? Are there, you know, folks on Twitter or other platforms that you really look to as kind of sources of truth or sources of information that, you know, typically kind of steer a little bit away from the bias and a little bit away from kind of the narratives? Would love to just better understand kind of like what you look to, and maybe that can be something that others can benefit from as well.
Yeah, so, you know, the first thing, it's probably obvious, but I should say it anyway, like everyone is biased. Everyone you're going to listen to, any kind of resource, any kind of Twitter account, any list of links on a website, any news outlet, they're all biased. Just assume that whatever you read and whatever anyone tells you is definitely biased. So just try to, you know, get your information from multiple sources and account for the fact that no one is really trying to do you favors. And having said that disclaimer, I think that, look, at the end of the day, ordinals are very early. The story is being written as we speak. So definitely the best approach is to be, you know, go in there, get involved in as many ordinals and BRC20 communities as you can. Really like get deep, because things change like on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, really. So you really cannot avoid that. Like if you try to get your information from like you know, like some Cointelegraph or something, you're gonna get it after like 2 weeks after everyone else already knows. Like it's gonna be too late. So definitely get involved in as many communities as you can. I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of the Taproot Wizards community, but there's many other. And by the way, the Taproot Wizards Twitter account is on stage. You can go follow it right now. But and join the Discord through the website and so on. But
I'll do
also,
that. I'll
there's
do
a
that.
ton.
I'll do that right now.
Nice. Let's go. But also there's a lot of others. There's like a ton of, I can't name all of them, but there's a ton of like really great like Ordinals communities and BRC20 communities and just Bitcoin communities that are starting up now. I am a very big fan of Trevor and Leonidas, who have, both of them have been into this Ordinals trend literally since day one. I would say probably even before me. I was like day 2 or day 3. So they probably were like a day or two before. And they've been doing like almost daily Twitter Spaces. They have the Ordinal show, which is really good. They have great guests every time, and a lot of good information. And yeah, again, like remember that of course anyone, you go to these spaces and there are guests invited on stage. Of course, everyone talks their own book. So remember that, but also I think there's a lot of people who just want to share information because we're at this early stage that it's obvious to everyone that we need more people to kind of understand and get in. And so there's a lot of people who are very helpful, and a lot of Discord servers are great. Just get in there. Just get in there. You will also just have fun. I mean, I've been having a ton of fun in the last 4 months. It's been a lot of work, but also like just a ton of fun. I can't think of anyone who regrets spending time on this ecosystem. So yeah, I highly recommend it.
Love that. We just got a couple questions for you, man. I know that your time is valuable, so we'll wrap up here soon. One of the last ones I have for you is ChatGPT did not know what a Bitcoin ordinal was. Are you bearish on the future of AI, and how do you see the future of Bitcoin and AI integrating?
Man, you guys running the spaces, you have to get AI somehow. I know that by the time I finish answering this question, you'll be changing the title already. You'll be like, Udi Wertheimer talks about AI and crypto.
Udi.
No.
just a heads up, I was an AI guy at Amazon for 3 years, and I chose to move into this space, so we won't be adding AI to the title anytime soon.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good.
But we'll ride the narrative. Yeah.
It's funny. Well, I gotta say this. Sometimes I gotta deal some burns, man. Like I was on, I was dancing in a wizard costume on stage in the Bitcoin Miami conference, and a bunch of people got mad that I was like not taking it seriously, and how can you do unserious things on stage in such an important conference, and then like a few a few talks after hours, there was this panel. The entire panel is like Bitcoin boomers, okay, like people who have been like their lifetime achievement is that they bought Bitcoin accidentally 5 years ago. Okay, that's like what did you do? Oh, I bought Bitcoin once. So they had 4 of them on stage, and the title of the panel was AI and Bitcoin. And like, bro, these guys do not know how to operate an iPhone. Like, I don't understand how do you invite them to talk about AI as if there's some like AI fucking experts. And this one guy asks like, oh, why do you think AI is important for Bitcoin adoption? Or more outrageously, why do you think Bitcoin is important for AI adoption? And the guy says, if you ask AI, what he said was, Bitcoin is the first form of money that is recognizable by AI, because AI cannot comprehend what a US dollar is because it's not digital. But Bitcoin is the first time that you have AI, you have money that AI can understand. And if you go to ChatGPT right now and you ask, what is a US dollar? It will tell you it is money. It will explain vividly all of the ways that you can use that form of money. I don't even know what those idiots thought they were talking about. But it's just, yeah. So anyway, but they're telling me I'm not serious because I wore a wizard hat. Anyways, back to the question. I obviously ChatGPT is I'm trained to answer like ChatGPT, so I can tell you that ChatGPT is only trained on information up until 2021, and that's why I can't tell you anything about ordinals. They just did not exist. But I think if you described ordinals to ChatGPT and asked it if it seems like an exciting field that it will probably grow, I think you will get a very bullish answer. I recommend that everyone here gives that a try. Just say, hey, imagine that there's an exciting new field where you can do JPEGs and tokens on Bitcoin. Do you think that's going to be exciting and grow rapidly? And let's just see what it says. So yeah, that's my kind of take.
One of my favorite things, by the way, like we use a lot of AI tools internally here, but one of my favorite things to do actually is to use ChatGPT to source research reports and studies. So I haven't actually done it yet for ordinals, but maybe I'll do it after this. But you just say, ChatGPT, like, pull all the best research studies and reports in the past, 12 months, or I guess in this case you'd have to say 24 months, But it's interesting.
You'll have to say 4 months because
That's
it doesn't
right.
exist.
Yeah, but it is interesting to see what it pulls and the sources that it pulls from. And to date, I'll tell you, like, I've been pretty pleased with the results in general, and it saves a lot of time doing the legwork of that research for sure.
Yeah, AI, man. AI and Bitcoin, that we are not going to be bored in the future. I can assure you of that. Look, Udi, we appreciate your time, man. The last question that I have for you is, like, what's next? Like, you've built this crazy, community in like 4 months. Ordinals are popping off. Like, the fair question is, where's Udi in even another 4 months or the end of 2023? Like, what do you guys have kind of coming down the pipeline?
Wizard baths.
It's definitely going to be wizard related. That's for sure. You can count on continuing to see everyone wearing wizard accessories on the timeline. But
Udi,
yes.
if I ever interview you at a conference, I'll wear the wizard hat as the moderator. I just want you to know.
What do you mean if? You mean when? The use of the word if was
When
misplaced.
I do it. Bad.
Let's go.
Nicole, what are your thoughts on us buying a portable camp shower and literally just holding it above you while the interview is happening? In full wizard costume.
I'm okay
You're going to kill me, aren't you?
I'm okay with it. No, I'm okay with it as long as it's a body shower that doesn't mess up my hair. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, you just wear a wizard
truth.
hat to protect your hair.
Perfect.
Well,
perfect.
No, fantastic. Sounds like it's a deal. It's a deal. We're gonna make.
All right, this is a magical space, but some magic has to come to an end, I guess. Udi's got more wizards to recruit to the group here. So look, Udi, we really appreciate your time, man. This was an awesome conversation. You shared a whole bunch of awesome tips that people are going to be able to listen back to as well. Obviously, this is a recorded space, so feel free to listen back and hear all the alpha that Udi shared.
Oh wait, is this recorded? Okay, everything I said about Gary Gensler was a joke. I do not know how I ended up on this stage. Probably edited by a third party.
Udi, don't worry. We'll fix it in post for you.
Look, Udi asked me to host this space. That's all I'm saying. I don't really know much more than that. But look, Udi, we appreciate the time that you've given us today. I can't wait to see what you do next. Basic Degenomics is brought to you by Hashflow. We have amazing conversations with dope people every Thursday at 12 p.m. EST. So shout out to yourself, sir. Keep crushing out there. And Andrew, Nicole, appreciate you joining as always. And yeah, we shall be chatting soon. Any final words, Andrew, Nicole, Udi, before we break?
No, just guys, stay clean. Don't forget to take your wizard showers.
Fair point, everybody. Don't forget to follow Taproot Wizards and Udi as well. So much love, everyone. We shall be chatting soon and catch you on the timeline.